Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
A guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that purposeful lead. 1.5 seconds. PRS is the name.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a PSGL here for round number 10 of the F4 Championship here on the PlayStation TS. My name is, of course, Michael Edwards. Going to be taking you through the action, and joining alongside me in the commentary box is the one, is Yoni, is Mr. Danny Quinn. Quinn, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm feeling really good. Of course, we are here at the penultimate race of the season. Still 4 people in the fight for the Drivers' Championship. Unfortunately, one of them isn't here tonight. But yes, very wet.
Yeah,
it is very, very, very wet.
Yeah, I'd like to say apologies for the delay, and unfortunately some real life stuff just cropped up, and it meant I was late getting the stream started, but we are here ready to get going, and qualifying is underway, so we'll transfer you over in just a moment's time. But yeah, I mean, we're here for Brazil, round number 10, as we take in the Sao Paulo circuit. Of course, 15 corners, 4.3 kilometers, 2.6 miles in length, 2 DRS zones, one down into turn number 1 and one down into turn number 4. The elevation changes on this circuit can provide very tricky traction zones, especially in that middle sector, Quinn.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, all through sector 2, you're really dependent on your downforce levels and how much you can get the car rotated. And yeah, it's going to be very, very tricky for the drivers, especially in the current weather we're seeing on track at the moment.
Absolutely. Before we head out over there, though, let's have a look at the results from last week's race in Zandvoort. It was, of course, Janel who did take victory by just over 200ths of a second ahead of Kilcree in second place. Chris with a great performance up in a podium position for the Red Bull team. Very much needed a big performance, and he did pull out a big performance when it mattered. Bell came home in P4 with Tiramisu in P5. Darian in P6 with Frank after a post-race 3-second time penalty, dropping him down to P7. Aguado in P8, Jaku P9, and of course even Kanai P10 with Alpha Gully the final of the finishers, and of course our non-finishers were Lucas, Thomas, Grisby, Provadox, Richard, and of course George Ansel. And well, it was a big race last week in terms of the championship, because of course the championship leader Casper was not present for the race last time out, and with everyone having such a pretty much a poor performance other than Kilcree, it's meant that Casper comes in tonight and he's still the championship leader by 11 points.
Yeah, like I was mentioning before, there is 4 people still involved in the Drivers' Championship fight, but unfortunately Provatox is not here, so if Casper can score, well, 1 point or more, then essentially Provatox is out of the championship fight going into the last race of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, as you see, Casper leading the way, 11 points clear. He's on 84 points, 73 points for Ethan Kanai in second place. That one solitary point that he picked up in Zandvoort, of course, meant that he stayed ahead of Kilcree, who jumps up into P3, 72 points for him. So 12 points separating the top 3, 15 points separating the top 4. So of course, Provadox, as you mentioned, not here tonight on 69 points. He's 20 points clear of Janel, who has kind of cemented himself somewhat in that P5 position. 13 points clear of Tiramisu in 6th place on 36 points. And Tiramisu also kind of cementing himself in 6th place as well, as he's 9 points clear of Crisby in P7 on 27 points. 23 points for Lauren T. Robbie on 21 points in 9th place, and Aguado, they rounded out the top 10 on 18 points. Bell in 11th, Darian in 12th, Frank 13th, Alex Marciano in 14th, Alpha Gully 15th, Chris 16th, Lucas 17th, Jaku 18th, Richard 19th, George Ansel 20th, Bugarel in 21st. And then, of course, we got Zian, Thomas, and Fede, drivers who have raced this season, yet to get a point on the board. And what that has done in terms of the constructors as well, it means that the AlphaTauris have taken the lead in the Constructors' Championships. They're 5 points ahead of the Saubers. So, I mean, we have a Drivers' Championship fight, but we also have a Constructors' Championship fight, which, of course, we are very excited to see how that is going to play out. 5 points separating the top 2 Constructors. All to play for you, Quinn.
Yeah, definitely. From both teams fighting for the Constructors' Championship, all we've seen is, consistent results on the side of Kilcrease, kind of taking the weight of the AlphaTauri. But Frank and Casper have put in some quite consistent results, and 5-point gap heading into last 2 races. It's all to play for.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we got the Scuderia Ferraris in 3rd place on 80 points. The Haas F1 team in 4th on 75 points. Close battle between those 2 for 3rd place. Then we got a decent freeway scrap, potentially a 4-way scrap depending on how Mercedes get on. We have McLaren on 49 points in 5th. Aston Martin on 45 points in 6th. 41 points for the Williams team in 7th. And of course 36 points for Mercedes in 8th place. And of course we got the Red Bulls in 9th on 26 points, moving clear now of Alpine at the bottom of the table on 13 points. But honestly, without further ado, I think it's time to head to the action on track, as we do have around 12.5 minutes remaining here in qualifying. Once again, apologies for the delay in getting the stream underway, but we are here, and as you mentioned, a absolutely drenched Sao Paulo.
Yeah, we know what the conditions can be like here, judging from, the last race in real life here in Sao Paulo, and it's definitely showing the tropical climates that you get here in Brazil.
Yeah, absolutely, as all the drivers out there are just going to be feeling the track out. They're not going to be overstepping the limits this early on in qualifying. They're just going to feel where the grip is. And there's always that potential late in the session that it does go to intermediate conditions. So that is one thing to keep an eye on. As I'm on board with Darian now, coming through turns 5 as he's heading up the hill in towards Ferrajula, and throws the car in 5th gear, keeps it nice and stable, easy on the throttle, coming out now into the heart of the middle sector.
Yeah, this is where, you make or break your lap time. You just gotta not do that and drift around the corners. You just gotta make sure you get the car stopped in time and get it rotated round, as Durian's having a hard time keeping traction. But that's Richard putting himself up into provisional front row. This last proper corner is where you make or break your lap, really. You've got to get a good consistent exit out of the final corner at Zhengzhou. That's how Durian did, and he's coming up to the line. Looks like it may be an 18, no, a high 19, so 7th place.
19.9 there for Darian as he goes up in the P7. Looking to see who we can jump on board with. That is just about starting a lap. There is a Red Bull coming for the final sector, so I'll jump on board with the Red Bull. I think it is Chris who potentially is just backing off, getting ready to go for another lap. We will wait and see as he's approaching Zhengzhou now, coming through turn number 12. Let's see if he's going to put his foot to the floor and get a fresh lap underway as he climbs up the hill. He is using his ERS, so we'll stay on board with Chris for this lap as we cross the start finish line. DRS would normally be activated, but not in these conditions. Coming up to the first corner now, the first braking zone. Through the center S's we will go of 1, 2, and of course looking for a good exit onto Curva del Sol, turn number 3. 4th gear, keeping it very tight to the inside line there for Chris. This will be another point where DRS will be activated on the rundown in towards the Cida del Lago, turn number 4. Once again, 4th gear, taking a lot of the inside curve there. I think not ideal there for Chris, but coming through turn 5 as we climb up the hill now in towards turn number 6 of Ferrajula, and it is going to be 5th gear, smooth through 5 and 6 And now breaking down into turn number 8, it was 6 and 7, sorry, I was referring to earlier. Through turn number 9 now, third gear there for Chris as he climbs up the hill once again into the sharp right-hander of Pico de Pato, if I've pronounced that right. I hope I have. I hope I haven't butchered it. But coming into Jun Chao now, and it is almost 5 attempts up on his time. Decent exit coming out of Jun Chao as well as he climbs up the hill. The elevation changes really making it difficult for the drivers out on track, especially in these conditions, to get the traction down. But to the line will come Chris, and it's going to be a 19.7. Up in the P7 goes Red Bull.
Yeah, it was a good lap from Chris there. He did have a few moments losing traction, but you can't really give much over about a lap like that, and just going over to really just trying to find someone who's on a lap. Jakku's coming towards. Yeah, Jakku's coming towards the end of his lap. Let's see what time he can put on the board. He goes P7 ahead of Aguada, and I believe it was actually Gully earlier put himself up into P4 with a 119.2. But we do have, I believe, it is Frank who's just going to start his lap. So do you want to take us on board with Frank's lap?
Yeah, absolutely. Frank now coming through to start his flying lap across the start finish line, heading into the braking for turn number 1 into the center S's. Third gear, getting the car slowed down, short shifting up into 4th at the apex of turn number 1 through the center S's. Now through the curve at the Sol, through turn number 3, this would be where DRS is open once again in the dry, but in the wet conditions, no DRS. Heading down now into the braking for the Cedar de Lago, turn number 4, as he gets the car rotated. A little bit caught on the exit curve, on the exit of turn 4, but goes through turn 5 all intact. Heading up the hill now towards turn number 6 of Ferrajula, and his 5th gear, short shifting up in the 6th there is Frank. As we come to the break-in now for turn number 8. Very easy to just turn in a little bit too early and invalidate there, so Frank has done well to avoid that. Through turn number 9 now, as we climb back up the hill again to Pico de Pato at the turn number 10 right-hander, sharp right-hander, where we've seen a fair few moves made over the years. And now into the break-in of Jun Chao as he comes through third gear, needs to get the best traction possible. You see him sliding there through Jun Chao, but climbs up the hill now. Nothing to do but put your foot to the floor and try to minimise the distance as Darian goes on a provisional pole with an 18.5, and I think is getting to intermediate conditions out there, Quinn.
Yeah, definitely looks like the rain's easing up, and it looks like the puddles are easing up on track. But I'll just having a look at Casper while you were finishing the lap with Frank, and Casper's really struggling on traction. These are new wet tyres that he has on. So yeah, he was about 2.5 tenths down through the second sector split, and he's about 5 tenths down as he crosses the line. So yeah, Casper really starting to struggle, and that is a Ferrari in the middle of the track, which is,
that's Fede.
I believe, Fede.
Yep, even
he's on an out lap.
Even Knaido, he's over a 10th up in the middle sector. Let's see what he can do. He's got a try to take the fight to Casper here tonight. Of course, 11-point lead committed tonight for Casper. He's going to be looking to extend that gap, making sure he has to do minimal work in the final round, but is all on Even Knai and, of course, Kilcree to prevent that, as Even Knai jumps up ahead of Casper. Up onto the front row goes the Scuderia Ferrari.
Yeah, and Casper in the Sauber has invalidated his second lap, and he was about a 10th up through sector 1, so he's got to, well, I think he's going to be coming into the pits because he's only got 0.5 laps of fuel left. Yeah, he's about a 10th up on his time as well, so it would have been a slight improvement, but enough to move him up ahead of Even Knai.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course in F4 is all fine margins that will get you up the order. Looking at the pit lane though, a lot of drivers in the pits right now, probably waiting for the last minute to chuck on a set of intermediates just in case someone is potentially watching the stream and giving a little bit of information out there. But to me, this looks like intermediate conditions now.
Yeah, the rain has definitely lightened up, and I think it's gonna be a game of who starts their flying lap last at the very last moment, because they can have the best track conditions for intermediates and potentially snatch away a pole.
Yeah, absolutely. As we got Chris out there, he's just coming out on the outlap on a fresh set of wet tyres, so maybe they've looked at the delta times between the tyres in the pit lane, and maybe it's saying that the wets are still slightly quicker right now. But in my opinion, like, even though there's still some puddles out there, the rain is getting lighter. We still got 3.5 minutes remaining in the session. I think at the end this will be intermediate conditions.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with you there. It's just a thing with all the puddles. So you risk aquaplaning with the, you risk aquaplaning with the inters not being able to displace the water. But if you time it just right, you should be able to get a good enough lap with the inters to, like I said, snatch away a pole.
As I was just on board with Jacko there, getting wayward coming out of Jun Chao, but he was up in the middle sector. Let's see if Jacko's going to improve. He's currently in P8. Up to the line goes P7, so I think he definitely lost a bit of time with that moment coming out of turn 12. As we got Richard still going out there on some laps now. We got Kilcree in the pits on a set of inters. In fact, he's coming out on a set of inters right now.
Yeah.
And this will be very telling as we got 2.5 minutes remaining in the session. We got Casper in the pits as
Casper
on a
as
set
well,
of inters.
yeah.
Honestly, Gwyn, this is going to be an interesting end to qualifying here.
Yeah, there are some people coming out on inters, some people coming out on wets. Well, actually, there's only 2 people coming out on inters. Well, Casper's not out yet, but Kilcree is out on the inters doing an outlap. And I believe Casper should be coming out shortly. Yep, he's just left his pit box now. So yeah, 2 drivers out of the 15, well 14 we have running are on the intermediate tyres.
And of course, I'm going to stay on board with. Actually, we'll try and come back on board with Kilkey when he's about to start a lap. But I mean, I'm so curious right now to see if these inters are going to work for those 2 drivers, because they are taking a bit of a gamble. Everyone else out there on wet tyres, but to me, the track is getting much closer to intermediate conditions, which should see them propel themselves clear ahead of the wet tyres, and that if it does go to intermediate conditions at the end of the session.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened with Chris Breeder. He seemed to have stopped outside just off the pit exit, but his car is still going, so not exactly sure what happened, but we will move on with the session, and Belbo puts himself up into P2, so he's still improving, but Dorian's still improving on the wet tyres, and yeah, Kilcree will be the man to watch and see how his sector splits are, so we'll stick with Kilcree for now, as going through the center S's, the turn 1 and 2, we can take a little bit more of the inside curves. It's definitely drying up. The inside curve of turn 2 there was absolutely, well, turn 3 was flooded at the start of the session, now it's completely clear of water, so
it's
definitely drying up. Yeah, it's definitely into conditions, so we could see a potential Kilcree Casper front row if they're both able to keep the car on track.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, we've got everyone out there on our lap right now, other than Crisby and Tiramisu, unfortunately out the session. Jaku, the best he's going to be is P11. Richard there with a 17.8 goes on provisional pole. We're staying on board with Kilpie though on these intermediate tyres. One of the championship protagonists coming through now in towards the beginning of Jun Chao, turn number 12. 2.2 seconds up. It is intermediate conditions, that is for sure, as we climb up the hill now to the line. What is this going to be? Is it going to be pole position for Kilcree? Can Casper snag it away from him at the end? We're going to find out. It's Kilcree to the line, And it's going to be a 17.1 for Kilpie. Let's go on board with Casper. Casper in the middle sector, but we'll revert back to Frank for the moment. He's coming up to the line. Frank goes up to P6 as we're on board with Casper. Casper purple in the middle sector. Whether that's purple for the entire session.
It's going to be really close.
I don't know. I don't know who's going to get pole position here. Will it be Kilpie? Will it be Casper? The one thing I do know is that Ivan Kanai is going to be starting from P5 up best, and here goes Casper. Casper puts it on pole position.
Yeah, Casper just had a much better run out of Jung Chao, and yeah, he was about 2 tenths down going through sector 2 on Kilcree, but he had a much better run through the final corner, and that's what made him 4 tenths up on Kilcree.
Absolutely, and that was incredible there from the championship leader, putting himself up into prime position here. So we're running through the qualifying results here. It is Casper who takes a pole position on the intermediates at the end, ahead of Kilcree, one of his championship protagonists, alongside him on the front row. Richard there in P3 with Darian in P4, Yanel in P5, Alpha Gully in P6, Ivan Kanai with a disappointing qualifying down in P7 in his championship hopes. We got Frank in 8th, Aguado in 9th, and Belwell rounding out the top 10. Outside the top 10, we have Chris in the Red Bull. Then, of course, we got Fede, we got Jaku, Crisby, Tiramisu rounding out the final position at the back of the grid. Of course, looking at the chat as well, we got the man, the myth, the legend. There's Mr. James Head saying evening, and good evening to you, James. Hopefully F1 will throw as much action as what we're hoping to see here in F4. But before we get into anything, we're going to take a short intermission. Well, Quinn, a very interesting qualifying session. It was full wet conditions. It went intermediates at the end. Only 2 drivers took the gamble, and they paid off with the gamble with a front row lockout for Casper and Kilcree in their championship fight. And with Ivan Kanai down in P7, it's going to be interesting to see if he can kind of fight his way back into this fight, because he's got a lot of cars to get through, and they're not easy drivers to overtake. Obviously, we've seen Yanel's pace this season. Alpha Gully has had some good pace this season. Darian has had some great pace this season, and Richard, he's no slouch either. So it's going to be interesting to see if Ivan Kanai can get through on that.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, we've seen Ivan Kanai start lower down, and he has struggled somewhat to make his way through the mid pack, and of course, with how close the racing is here, with the whole field essentially being in a DRS train, it's going to be quite difficult for Ivan Kanai to make it through.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that we can confirm, looking at the weather for the race, it is going to be the complete opposite to what we had in qualifying. It's going to be bone dry from the looks of things, Quinn. So a lot of the drivers might have been running their dry setups out there, ready for the race. So maybe that's why we saw them struggling somewhat early on in qualifying with the traction.
Yeah, well, you just stole what I was going to say. But yeah, most of the people you'd think would, seeing the weather for the race, you'd think most of them would have run a dry setup. But there may have been some people just trying to optimize the qualifying as much as they can by hindering the race setup just a little bit, adding a little bit more downforce and ride height, and essentially it will bugger you in the straights, but through the corners they won't be able to catch you. So yeah, it's always a bit of a struggle choosing a setup for this track if you optimize sector 2, where you can make up a lot of time or lose it all in the straights.
Yeah, absolutely. As we go to those 5 red lights to get us underway here in Brazil, 36 laps awaiting the drivers, and looks like a very good start there from Casper in the initial phase, but Kilcree coming back at him in the second phase. Richard there trying to hang it around the outside, but everyone goes through turns 1 and 2 the center S. So look at Kilcree there getting the inside line for the curve at the soul, and up into the race lead he goes. As you're seeing, Richard there trying to get his way through as well. Richard now up in the P2, Casper down into P3 at the start, Quinn.
Yeah, it was a great start for Kilcreek and Richard, but looking at the tyre choices, we can see why, because Kilcreek and Crispy are the two people choosing the soft tyres. Richard has gone for the mediums, everyone else is on the hard tyres. So no wonder Richard and Kilcreek got a much better start than Casper.
Yeah, as we're seeing a lovely battle going on right now between Alpha Gully and Yanel for P5 in this race. On board with Ivan Kanai as he's looking at this battle and he's thinking, okay, I need to time these overtakes well. I've got to get up the front to my championship rivals. It's Bell losing out on 2 spots to both of the Aston Martins as Aguado and Crisby get through on the Williams man. As here goes Ivan Kanai, going to have to try get through down the inside in towards turn number 1 into the centre S's. Here goes the Ferrari, outbreaks the Haas, job done up in the P6.
Yeah, very good overtake there for Ivan Kanai, and yeah, he's right on the back of Yanil now. They've still got to keep an eye on Alpha Gully in behind, but the front two are starting to pull away slightly from Casper. Nearly 7 tenths is the gap between Casper and the front two, and Casper's doing a great job in his own right, keeping up with the front two regarding the tyre disadvantage he has.
Yeah, in this middle sector, that's where you're going to see the advantage of running the softer compound going to come into play here, as you're seeing the gap between the increase between Richard and Casper here in that battle for P2. And I'm not going to lie, I think Casper's race kind of depends on whether or not he can stay within DRS, as he's using a bit of battery now up the hill, and he is within that 1 second window right now. And for Kilcree and Richard, they are not doing what they need to do, and that is pull away from the hard runners in behind.
Yeah, that's what Kilcree would love to do, is just pull away from Casper and just keep him behind. But offsetting a strategy like he has, it's going to be quite difficult for him to do a one-stop unless he's banking on a few late safety cars, which isn't always the best thing to do. But yeah, it's just, I think Casper's still in a great position to potentially get a race win here because he's on the optimal strategy.
Yeah, it's all going to be about whether or not Casper can keep in touch with the top two. He's outside that 1 second now. He's just teetering on the edge of the 1 second actually, as Casper trying to use every bit of VRS he can to stay within DRS range. But the thing is, you look at Darian in behind. Darian right now is sitting on 85% to Casper's 15. Well, it's gone down to 10 now, but Casper draining his battery to stay with the top two. And if he does lose touch with the top two, as I think probably might happen by the end of this lap, it could be a long race for Casper.
Yeah, it could definitely. And something that we also have to factor in is that some of these people, well, there's going to be mixed setups.
Richard down the inside into the Cedar del Lago, job done for the Mercedes up in the race lead now. And likewise, as we saw with Casper, Kilcree has tried to drain his battery to pull away at the front, but the medium tyres of Richard keeping him within touch enough to make sure he stays on the back. But that gap between Casper and Kilcree floating around that 1 second window, and I mean Casper's race I think just absolutely hinges on staying within DRS of these guys.
Yeah, it does. He's just got to stick. He's just got to stick behind these two within DRS and just hang it out until either of their tyres drop off or it gets to a point where the hards are just a better tyre.
As Kilcree gets back through for the race lead with the help of DRS, you're seeing Casper also having DRS, but you see that flashing red light, and Darian there runs very deep into turn number 1 and unable to take advantage of Casper's ERS usage on the opening laps. But Darian, I think, potentially could be on course, as we see even Klein getting through on Yanel. Yanel dropping a little bit off the back of these guys now. and even Kanai 1.2 off the back of Darian, and he's drained his battery as well. I mean, Darian and obviously Richard in brilliant positions right now with the ERS usage. Everyone else draining their battery to try and stay in this train, but I mean, they've let themselves kind of hindered now to the guys behind. Alpha Gully on 43%. He could use a bit of battery and maybe get a double overtake done in towards turn number 1 here.
Yeah, could definitely do that, but we've got three of the 4 championship protagonists in the top 5, of course, with a driver in between the 3 of them, and we have Richard actually fired up a move, and he gets the move done for the race lead, then he sticks it through turn 1 and 2, but Kilcree,
that was a late send down the inside from Alpha Gully on Even Clyde. Fortunately, no real calamities happening there, but that's going to allow Alpha Gully to just really get the job done with DRS, and Yano gets through as well. Yano down in up in the P6 again. Even Kanai goes from P5 to P7 in this race, and that is not good for him, but that is what happens when you do not have DRS around you. You get absolutely swallowed up by the pack in behind, and that is why it was so important for Casper and Darian to stay within DRS range of the top 2 here.
Yeah, and just looking at the gap that Casper has now, he's teetering on the edge of 1 second. Now he's teetering on the edge of half a second. He's really closed up to the front 2, and looking at his ERS, he is saving somewhat. He is at 20%. Same with Kilcree. Richard is still on about 50%, but Kilcree is quite far behind Richard now. So I think both Kilcree and Casper are saving up ERS. They're just using this time by using the DRS to essentially stick with Richard.
Absolutely, and I think we saw there a bit of trail breaking there from Casper going into turn 1, trying to save a little bit extra ERS, and of course maybe save a little bit of extra fuel as well, as we'll go late into this race, maybe underfuel the car somewhat. Yano getting the move done on Alpha Gully, runs deep on the exit of the Cedar de Lago though, as Alpha Gully almost had an opportunity to come back at him, but elects to stay in behind. Even Kanai waiting in behind for an opportunity, but he does have a soft runner of Crisby in behind him. Frank currently in P9, and how big would this be for Casper if Frank can maybe get himself ahead of Ivan Kanai in this race, because then he's got a rear gunner in Frank, causing problems for one of his championship rivals, in fact his nearest championship rival.
Yeah, just looking at the gaps at the moment, it is about 5-second gap from Kilcree and Casper back to Frank.
Casper looking at the inside at Kilcree, trying now bringing the wheel to wheel, a little bit of wheel to wheel contact there, but Casper, a little bit of a snap there from Kilcree. That's going to allow Casper to go sailing around the outside at the Curva del Sol. Up into P2 goes the championship leader, and have those soft tyres already hit a cliff here in this race?
Well, I don't think essentially they have. I think it's just he was just trying to really defend the inside and not let Casper go through, and I think he just pushed too much to the inside and mounted the curb, which of course nearly just completely ruined his race and championship. But he's still within an arm's length.
As we got a 2x2 like Noah's Ark moment here, as we got Chris and Jaku side by side, and up ahead of them you got Frank and Aguado side by side. Aguado up in the P10, Frank down to 11th as Chris gets through on Jaku, and here comes Freddy side by side with Jaku coming up the hill as they run to the start finish line. A little bit of wheel to wheel contact between the pair of them, and Jaku going to be able to hold on to that. Tiramisu's just chilling in the background, as I believe we've got a 3 wide moment into turn 1 here for the tail end of the top 10. Aguado holding on to P10. Frank and Chris getting very close to contact there as Kilcree is losing out to Darian in this race, as Yano gets back through on Alpha Gully, as Casper is overtaken by Darian, as we saw Alpha Gully and Yano make a little bit more contact there, and Yano I think went off track if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of action here on the opening 10 laps.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch what happened to force Dorian into P2, but that's really opened it up now because the two highest championship, well, contenders are right next to each other on track. So potentially, if Kilcree can extend this soft tire stint a little bit further. Of course, he doesn't have anyone behind to worry about at the moment, but he is slowly dropping off the front three.
Yep, and here comes Yano. Yano looks to have a very good car in a straight line, closing out to the back of Ivan Kanai. Doesn't go for the move though. Alexa staying behind, compromises his run through turns 1, and that allows Belwell to have a little look at him, as I believe that was Crispy getting a little bit offset in the background, probably from trying to follow through, but obviously a little bit of contact, a little bit of a slap at the rear for Belwell, and that might have just unsettled Crispy in this race.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Chris is doing. It doesn't look like he's got any damage on his car, but
I think he
was all over the runoff.
Yeah, I think he just potentially might have just had a little bit of a wobble to make sure he doesn't go into the back of Belwell and Yano there. But I mean, the train from P5 goes all the way down to Frank in P12. So I mean, even right now, I mean, he's 3.1 off the back of Kilcree. Not ideal for him this early on in the race. We're about to begin lap number 11, and Alpha Gully flies through ahead of Ivan Kanai, and I think Ivan Kanai knew he was fighting a losing battle and backed out of that on the run into turn number 1. But potentially we'll be able to retake that position as we come through the Curve of the Soul, and it's going to be a virtual safety car here before Ivan Kanai can get that overtake done. And he's going to have to settle down in P6, and I'm pretty sure now this is a good opportunity for the likes of Casper and Kilcree just to save up a bit of battery here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what caused this virtual safety car. I know that Crispy retired, but I can't see where he actually retired.
I will have a quick look back on the stream. I didn't actually see where he retired either, but we'll have a quick little peek back on the stream as we're still in the virtual safety car conditions, and we will see as we wait for the green flag to go racing once again. Hopefully everyone make sure they do not speed under VSC, because that will be an instant drive-through penalty. DRS is enabled once again. We're back to green flag racing, and Darian with a very good restart here as he's about to get the move done on Richard, and job done in towards turn number 1, and looking back as Casper also gets the move done on Richard as well. And I'm not gonna lie, okay, that was interesting. I've looked back on stream, and Crispy has come flying into the pits. We've got Aguado off in the
Belwell and Chris.
Belwell off and Chris off as well. Calamities down at the back of the field. But yeah, what I was going to say is Crispy comes into the pits. It doesn't say he's retired into the pits, so maybe out of frustration he might have ran it into the pits and may have accidentally came in with a bit too much speed and hit the wall or something. Or maybe he tried to get on the brakes a little bit too heavy and the rear's locked and slammed him into the wall. Who knows? But he did retire in the pit lane, so I'm guessing that's what the VSC was for. As we're about to begin lap 13 of 36 in this race, as we're entering the second third of the race. Darian leads, Casper in second place, Richard in third, Kilcree in fourth, Ivan Kanai in fifth, with Yanel in sixth, Alpha Gully in seventh, Jakku in eighth, Frank in ninth, and then we got a bit of a gap back now to the guys in behind that due to the contact that we saw moments ago. Aguado in P10 trying to defend furiously from Tiramisu, who's down the inside into the centre message. Job done for the Mercedes.
Yeah, Tiramisu's had a very consistent season this time around. Has just seen Yano get past even tonight, and yeah, Tiramisu has actually really improved on the last few seasons that we've commentated over him, and he's definitely showing it this season, and of course getting past Aguado into the points, he's having a fairly quiet race. But yeah, for the other races this season, he's been fairly consistently in the points. So it's good to see that he's improved from the last few seasons we've commentated him.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, lap 13 of 36. It begs the question now. I mean, Kilcree, is he thinking soft mediums by any chance?
It could potentially, but you'd have to go, I'd say, to at least another 5 laps. At least half distance, I'd say, to potentially make that strategy work.
I mean, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, Kilcree doing well on these soft compound tyres. Staying in the train for the race lead, as we're seeing Bell get through on Freddy up in the P11. He goes now as Ivan Kanai gets back through on Janel. Up in the P5 goes Ivan Kanai, but gets a poor run through the Cida de Lago, and Janel closing right up underneath our rear wing of the Scuderia Ferrari as we climb up the hill through Ferragula, and of course to the break in turn number 8. Any potential looks down the inside? No, not today for Janel. He's going to sit in behind Ivan Kanai for the time being.
Yeah, Janel was just essentially bump draft in the back of Ivan Kanai going up to turn 6 and 7. He was just right on the gearbox of Ivan Kanai, essentially pushing him up the straight. Yeah, looking at the top 4, they're really pushing on, and looks like Kilcree is going to make the first move by pitting. That could force the hand of the 3 ahead. Obviously, being on the soft tyres, he's going to have a big advantage.
Getting absolutely swarmed into the centre S's here as Janel gets up into P4. Alpha Gully gets through up in the P5, and Jaku was also having a look as well down the inside of Ivan Kanai, as we see a set of mediums on the car for Kilcree. Aguado disqualified for the session, parked in a dangerous location, and that looks like he's had a spin coming out of Zhengzhou. And yeah, I mean, he's been disqualified for it. I mean, hopefully the car wasn't beached or something. But yeah, I mean, Aguado out of the session. Ivan Kanai on a fresh set of mediums now. I mean, he is going to get the undercut, which is obviously very beneficial around here. But at the same time, it's also going to be detrimental to him late in this race when the tyres start to wear out.
Yeah, definitely. But it's forcing the hand of these 3 drivers ahead, but none of them are pitting, so this undercut is going to be fairly strong. But one thing I just want to mention, looking at the clouds around, it looks like they're getting a bit darker.
Are we potentially thinking it could be intermediate conditions by the end of the race? Is that what you're saying to me right now, Quinn?
I mean, we are in Brazil, and it's known for having very changeable conditions, so could potentially be the case. I
wonder if we are going to see a Glock moment in the final sector, and obviously harking back to 2008, of course, when we saw Lewis Hamilton take his very first World Championship. Of course, we've had so many iconic moments around here as well. I mean, I believe it was 2012 where Sebastian Vettel overtook Michael Schumacher around the Cida de Lago to put himself into a championship winning position, where of course it was like a passing of the torch from one German driver to another in that regard. But I wonder if we're going to see any iconic moments here for the lads in F4 tonight. That's going to be the big question.
Yeah, just on board with Richard, and he missed the apex for turn 1 and 2, and that really compromised his run through turn 3. And Casper's right on the back of Dorian. He doesn't go for the move, but he's just letting Dorian know that he's there. Of course, we're near enough halfway through this race, and yeah, Kilcree's going to have a little bit of traffic in Feddy and Elbel. Of course, fighting for track position between the two of them, and what would be the tail end of the points. So with Kilcree coming through, it'd actually be Tiramisu, but for the time being, they'd be fine for the tail end as Bellbell goes very wide out of turn 6 and 7.
Yeah, and here comes
And he
Kilcree.
actually goes off on the grass. So he's completely cut across there, but he doesn't get a penalty.
Oh, here
And there's
comes
Kilcree diving down the inside. Very nice move there for Kilcree.
Yeah,
And now
Kilcree.
he's got a lot of clean air there to catch up to Tiramisu.
Yeah, Kilcree using these fresh mediums to perfection. Unfortunately for him, Belba and Freddy weren't as difficult to overtake as he would have thought they would be, battling for position. But, I mean, it's still a long way to go in this race. Lap 18 of 36, we're at halfway distance. Darian in the race lead, Casper in second place, Richard in third. Then we got a 3.7 second gap back to this battle for P4 in this race as Freddy picks up a 3 second time penalty. Alpha Gully in P4 with Yano in P5, even Kanai in P6, Jaku P7, Frank in P8, and there everyone who was in the train for P4 in this race. And of course we got Tiramisu, who's in a bit of no man's land, but he has a fast approaching Alpha Tauri of Kilcree closing in.
Yeah, what Kilcree has got to hope for is that train for P4 all pit by the time he gets to the back of him, so he doesn't have to deal with, well, losing time being at the back of the train. So that's what Kilcree is really hoping for. He is closing up on Tiramisu very, very quickly. He's gained about, over a second and a half on this lap alone.
Then we go Alpha Gully and Yano into the pits, same with Jaku as well, so they're going to get the undercut on Frank and even Knai in this race. So, I mean, you mentioned about the guys in the train coming into the pits. Well, we're just seeing the first of the pit stop as happen in that train, as it's all fresh mediums on for the lot of them. And we're going to have an indicator of how far behind Kilcree they are going to be when they exit the pits. And remember, they were around, 3.7 seconds off the battle for the top three? So let's have a look here. As Alpha Gully is exiting the pit lane now, and he is 4.6.
He's over 10 seconds. He's over 10 seconds off the back of Kilcree.
Yeah, so I mean, if, in my opinion, I think Kilcree would have around about a 7-second lead on the leaders here. 6 to 7 seconds in this race can be worth quite a lot around here. Of course, with the tyre wear going to be getting ever so worse for Kilcree in the end of this race, it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to manage the gap and manage his tyres, as we got Casper closing in on Darian again, not going for the move. Frank into the pits as well, and a 5-second speeding penalty for Frank. Not ideal for him as Kilcree gets through on Tiramisu. Up in the P6 goes the AlphaTauri. Tiramisu, Frank into the pits there, Josh behind as well. And now Kilcree, we're going to have a little look at the gap to the leader. Kilcree, 12.5 seconds off the back of Darian in the race lead.
Yeah, he's going to have a huge lead coming back. When the front four pit in, he's going to have a huge lead. But of course, they're going to be, potentially, don't know, they could be going on for softs, or if there is in fact rain coming, they'll be going out till the rain comes. But yeah, Richard is doing a very good job keeping up with the two hard runners up front on the mediums. Nearly 20 laps done on these mediums is a very good job from Richard.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of the front two into the pits, Richard continues on those mediums. I was going to bring this up. I mean, if Darian and Casper left it any longer, they fall under threat of maybe falling into that battle with Alpha Gully, Yano and Jaku in this race. Yeah,
potentially. But I think Richard might be trying a medium soft. The reverse of Kilcree's strategy.
This actually could be... I mean, in terms of how close it's going to be on track, it's going to be very close as we come through Give It the Soul. And Alpha Gully will have DRS, and he's going to get through on Bell, and he's immediately onto the back of the two who were in the race lead in this race.
Yeah, looking at the gaps, they are about 9 seconds back. Well, about... 8 seconds back from Kilcree, so they've got pretty big mountain to climb, about 8 seconds worth of time to make up, but they are on 6-lap younger tyres than Kilcree, so from now until the end of the race it could definitely be a major factor.
Yeah,
to see Richard coming in, but even Goliath staying out. Yep. Richard, I believe, may go on to... Yeah, he's gone on to softs. The same with Tiramisu.
Yeah, Richard onto a fresh set of soft compound tyres, and of course, remember, it was wet during qualifying, so they have a lot of soft tyres available to him.
Yeah, they do.
And we're going to see where Richard's going to come out relative to everyone else. He's going to be jumped by the likes of Alpha Gully and Janel, and he's going to come out in P7, but Jakku with DRS might have a look at him into the seat of Dargo. In fact, he does not. And now we're going to see if Richard on those soft tyres has the potential of getting through, as we're seeing a bit of a scrap go on. Janel tries to send it all the way around the outside through Ferrajula on Casper. This will be huge if he's able to get the job done here, but unfortunately no go there for Janel. Remember, Janel took race victory last time out in Zandvoort. He's going to be looking to make this back-to-back incredible performances, and with Povatox not here tonight, I mean, a big point haul for Janel could see obviously, I mean, in terms of the final race, I mean, you would think that Povatox has enough of a gap, but you never know. If Janel was to take a race win here, I mean, it would be possible for Janel to maybe get P4 in the championship.
Yeah, definitely. And I just wanted to mention, with Richard coming in, he lost over a second just from staying out a lap longer than the front two. When he came into the pits...
Well, here goes Richard on Alpha Gully. As Alpha Gully defends to the inside, Richard will be more than happy to try it around the outside through to see that Delago try to look for a little switchback, unable to get the car turned in, as Alpha Gully does very well to defend it from Richard. And Richard can't hang around. He needs to get through on these soft tyres, because I think Richard's probably the only one that could really drag the field all the way up to Kilcree, as we're seeing Janel having a look on the inside of Casper into turn number 8 as we climb up now through turn number 10, and Janel really putting the pressure on the championship leader here.
Yeah, and I was just going to mention the front two is the two AlphaTauri drivers, so potentially could see a little bit of teamwork coming in here. Of course, Durian is really starting to catch up with Kilcree at the moment. When the two pitted in, they were about 8.9 seconds away just 3 laps ago, but that's Bell's retired in the pit lane.
Yep, Bell into the pit.
Unfortunate for Bell, but that is Richard getting through on Alpha Gully. But yeah, like I was saying, 3 laps ago the gap was 8.9, now it's 5.7.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to have team orders in this, potentially, between the AlphaTauris. Of course, a 1-2 finish for them would really see them, I mean, take essentially, I think mathematically it would be impossible for the Saubers to come back in the championship if it was to be a 1-2 finish on the AlphaTauris here. I think Darian, will he decide to back up the pack to maybe give Kilcree a better chance of closing that gap in even more?
I think it potentially could happen, but I think Casper had quite a bad run out of Zhengchao because he's about 9/10 off the back of Durian.
There goes Richard on Janel.
And yeah, Janel and Richard really fighting to try and get close to Casper, and he gets the move done, but Janel's still right on his gearbox. And yeah, about a 10th behind. It looks like Janel's going to try and get a move done, but he just can't. He's just sticking behind. And Richard could potentially be looking at a race win here if he can just ease off on his tyres and just extend them to the end of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And now the questions will be asked. I'm sure the questions will be asked on the AlphaTauri garage, and obviously for Darian to potentially, be the rear gunner after Kilcree. Make sure Kilcree stays in the race leader. Make sure he stays in the race win, because right now Kilcree's gaining 6 points on Casper in the championship, which cuts the gap in half. And if Darian's able to back up Casper into the legs of Richard, into the legs of Yano and Alpha Gully, as that is Freddy out of the race, that's a safety car.
So that completely equalises. Yeah, so it's going to be soft to the end. But the two AlphaTauris being right next to each other on track kind of forces the double stack, but Durian's backing off so he can have that gap to enable his double stack.
Yeah, absolutely. Kilcree, I 100% guarantee in the pits for a fresh set of softs. Darian as well. The one good thing as well, this is for Kilcree, is of course it does allow him to save that ERS battery up. Same with the likes of Yano and Alpha Gully. They're going to be able to get their ERS back. Jakku and Tiramisu as well going to be able to save up their battery. There should be no issues for anyone in terms of their fuel anymore, if there was any to begin with. But right now, Kilcree in the race lead, safety car deployed, lap 26 of 36. Soft tyres, we believe soft tyres will be going on the car for everyone right now, as we have the bottom three of Frank, Ethan Kanai and Chris all on a set of fresh soft tyres, and I would imagine Kilcree, Darian, Casper all going to be piling into the pits. Richard will be an interesting one, and yet Richard's in as well.
Coming in. Yeah, I would say it would be it wouldn't be a good decision for Richard to stay out, just because his tyres are 4 laps old. But yeah, it just would not be a good idea. But Dorian's going to get held up here.
Yeah,
he's getting held up just slightly. And I think he might get jumped by Casper. He does. And he gets jumped by Richard also.
Yeah,
so yeah, didn't have to, well, yeah, just didn't leave a big enough gap between himself and Kilcree to make it a clean double stack.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Darian possibly needed an extra second in terms of the gap, but then then he runs the risk of driving too slow under the safety car, which of course would throw its own issues out there as well. But I mean, he still comes out in P4. Obviously, we know Darian's pace around here. Definitely, he is a driver capable of getting himself back into P2. And I mean, Yano looks very quick in a straight line, which I think will cause some issues on the restart. But I think Darian, if he has communication with Kilcree, they'll be working together in tandem to get the AlphaTauris back in a 1-2 position.
Yeah, but I think it's definitely better for Kilcree, but of course Casper's, instead of having the car buffer, Casper's literally right behind Kilcree, so yeah, it works better in both ways. Kilcree's got fresh tyres again, and he's on an equal playing field with, well, the rest of the field, but in direct view of Kilcree, so yeah, it's going to be quite tense final laps here.
Yeah, absolutely. As we cross the line to begin lap 28 of 36, we're under safety car conditions. It is Kilcree right now in the race lead, and he'll be taking 4 points out of Casper. If it remains like this in the championship fight, that gap will come down to 8 points heading into the final round in Austin, Texas for the American Grand Prix. Of course, the Circuit of the Americas, the final race of the season, and what a race to end the season at as well. Right now, obviously, Kilcree will be hoping the likes of Richard and Darian can get themselves ahead of Casper to take more points out of it. Even Kanai, though, down in 10th place. I mean, it's another one of those races where I think Ethan Kanai will be very disappointed. He's had, well, I mean, 11th place in Baku, 10th place in Zandvoort, and he's down in 10th place right now. I mean, he's out of the championship fight if it remains, I guess.
Yeah, he is, and well, you're just listing off like the disappointing finishes he'd had, but the fact that he's still in a championship fight after those finishes, he should be right up there with Casper, potentially even leading the championship.
I mean, you look at his race results and that this year. Obviously, second place in Australia, third place in Belgium, sixth place in Monaco, then second place in Austria, sixth place in Canada, then of course second place in France, and first in Portugal, then 11th, 10th, and then we're on to this race right now as we're about to get ready to go back to green flag racing. Kilcree controls the pace, and I think he's gone. I think he's caught Casper a little bit napping there on the restart.
No, he hasn't. It was good reactions from Casper to get right on the back of Kilcree as he went, and yeah, he didn't really catch him napping. It was a good reaction time there from Casper to catch Kilcree going, but Durian's right on the back of Richard, who did get caught a little bit napping by Casper going. But yeah, that's even Kanai actually getting a move done on Tiramisu. So yeah, even Kanai's really got a lot of work to do now with getting through the field.
On the inside. He is going to have a look down the inside in a turn 8. Darian up in the P3 as Richard and Darian side by side. Small bit of wheel-to-wheel contact. That's going to allow Janel to potentially have a little look down the inside in towards turn number 10. No, Janel's going to be smart, stick in behind. And this is not what Casper wants. He's in an Alpha Tauri sandwich.
Yeah, Kilcree's not even using the ERS, and he's pulled out quite a big gap. And yeah, they're both, well, all the front three were using overtake. Top two are now. But yeah, it looks like Devian's got great speed in a straight line because Casper was using ERS. Durian wasn't, and he was able to, well, stick within the 3/10 gap of Casper. So yeah, the AlphaTauri is looking like they've got great straight line speed here.
That 30 or 36, Kilcree leads away. 8/10 is the gap, and you got Darian right now in P3. Of course, Kilcree's teammate can really help Kilcree out in terms of the championship fight here. By not only trying to get through on Casper, but maybe try and back him up into the legs of Richard, into the legs of Janel, to take more and more points off the championship lead. Lap 30 of 36, we're coming to the crunch time now. It is getting quite dark over the head in the skies. Will we see any rainfall at the end of this race? That is going to be a big question. It is overcast right now. It is looking quite grim out there, but I just don't know. I don't know if we're going to get any rain at the end to spice this up. But what we can get to spice it up is a fantastic battle beginning to brew between the likes of Darian and, of course, Casper in this race. As Casper out, well, he's essentially 7/10 off the back of Kilcree. We're going to see how much he does gain with DRS and ERS now. Running down into Desida de Lago here. 7/10 was the gap, and he is closing it down by essentially a 10th just down that straight alone.
Yeah, Durian's really pushing on actually. He's got the best ERS out of the top four.
Oh my god,
and Durian,
he's at a peak down the inside as Darian, but he has not been able to pull it off.
He's going to try to stick it.
And he's again unable to get the traction he needs. But this is not good for Casper. He's outside the second.
Yeah, it's really not good. He's really going to push on, try get within. Doesn't look like he will, but the DRS detection is just after this last corner and he doesn't get it. And Darian's right on the back of him.
Yeah, Darian going to have DRS and he's going to use a bit of ERS and he's going to fly through up into P2. Goes the AlphaTauri. It's once again an AlphaTauri 1-2 here, lap 32
yeah,
and
look at what Kilcree's doing. He's backing up to give Darian the DRS. So Casper doesn't get straight back past him. It's brilliant. Brilliant awareness from Kilcree there.
Yeah, as everyone in the DRS train of each other. Casper with all the work to do right now to try and get himself back through. The championship lead will be cut in half if it remains like this. In terms of the fastest lap, who currently has the fastest lap? That is one big question.
Chris,
we will find out, and it is Chris down in P11. He has the fastest lap of the race with a 108.655. So Chris right now can claim that he has the fastest lap, but he is right now in a bit of a in a bit of a situation where he needs to get through on Tiramisu to get a singular point in this race. Even Kanai currently going to be knocked out of the championship proceedings, along with Provatox, who of course wasn't here tonight. Yano with a P5 finish if it remains like this. I mean, mathematically it's possible for him to jump ahead of Provatox, but 12 points is a big margin, a very big margin.
Yeah, it is, and I think that Dorian's just going to try and play the team game with Kilcree here. I don't think he's going to try and get the move done. I think he's just going to stick behind and be a rear gunner for Kilcree. He's just going to stick behind, be a rear gunner for Kilcree, and just defend from any attacks from Casper or even Richard. Because, yeah, Richard's getting close to the back of Casper now.
Well, I'll tell you as well, if Darian does finish second, he will jump ahead of Crisby in the championship standing. So he goes up, potentially all the way to P7 in the championship. Of course, Aguado, the only man ahead of him in the championship who is on track right now. In fact, I think he will jump ahead of... Aguado out this race. Sorry, I do apologise. I forgot that he got disqualified. But yeah, I mean...
Yeah, it's not even... Sorry to cut you off, but Dorian, I just went on board with him. He wasn't even using DRS for that whole straight. So yeah, he's really just trying to keep Kilcree in this race lead.
Yeah, of course, we got support in the chat from Jav saying, come on Casper. Casper right now the championship leader, currently in third place. He has his championship rival Kilcree in the race lead, with Kilcree's teammate Darian as a rear gunner in second place. Right now, the gap between Kilcree and Casper in the championship is 12 points. As it currently stands, it will be cut in half. It will be down to 6 points going into the final race in the Circuit of the Americas for the Texan Grand Prix in the United States. But right now, Kilcree doing everything he can, Darian doing everything he can as a rear gunner, and we're seeing Richard get close to the back of Casper as well. But Darian, I think, has to use a bit of DRS here because he's under threat now from Casper and Richard in the end.
Yeah, he really has to. I think he's using it now, but potentially he's going to go ahead.
Here goes Casper down the inside of Kilcree.
Oh no! Oh no!
Brilliant there from Casper, following Darian through. Up in the P2 goes the championship leader. Now it's on Kilcree to come back at him. And Kilcree's using the ERS. He's using DRS. He's going to try it around the outside, but he's coming losing up right to the back of his teammate as we go side by side through to Cedar Delago. It is Kilcree. It is Casper, wheel to wheel. And Casper comes out on top here as we're on the penultimate lap of this race. Darian into the race lead. This would seal the Constructors' Championship, I believe, for AlphaTauri. But right now, Casper spoiling the party for the AlphaTauris in getting ahead of Kilcree here.
Yeah, potentially. If Casper's able to get past Dorian and win this race with Kilcree finishing third, Casper's won the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, 12 points of gap. It needs a 17-point lead going into the final race for it to be all wrapped up. Right now he's gaining 2 points, so it would be a 14-point lead, but final lap of the race about to commence. Casper quite some way off the back of Darian. No move into turn number 1 as Kilcree's sending a late lunge down the inside, trying to offset Casper here. And he's a good run through the curve of the soul now. This is Kilcree's championship hopes hanging by a thread here as we see the flash of the red light. They are all defeated on ERS. And look at Richard. Richard down the inside of Kilcree. A little bit of contact. Richard around. Yano has got front wing damage. Alpha Gully able to get through as well. But did he pick up wing damage? I don't know. So right now, everyone struggling here as Chaco's gone into the back of Yano. And Chaco's lost a bit of front wing. It's all gone chaotic here on the final lap of the race. Richard down the inside of Kilcree. A little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact. And around goes. Around goes Richard. And now it is all about the run out of Junchao up the hill towards the checker flag. Will it be Casper? Will it be Kilcree? Will it be Darian? And it looks like Darian has enough of a gap to potentially take this race win. and it's going to be Casper right now going to be able to hold on to P2, extending the championship lead to 14 points. Darian with the race win. Kilcree in P3, that is the Constructors' Championship, to my maths, all wrapped up. And Yano does hold on to P4 in this race. In fact, I'll do the maths again. Of course, AlphaTauri came in with a 5-point lead over Alfa Romeo here tonight, and with 26 points gained for them, and I believe it was 12 for second for Casper. We'll quickly confirm where Frank finished in just a moment's time. As Casper said, perfect in the chat, and that was incredibly perfect there from Casper to get through when he did on Kilcree, because he was able to spoil the AlphaTauri party. But we will quickly do the math to try and confirm if AlphaTauri were able to seal the Constructors' Championship here tonight. It is Darian, though, who does take the race victory on the top step of the podium. It is Casper in second place, extending his championship lead to 14 points with only 16 points available, meaning that Kilcree, if he doesn't win in Circuit of the Americas, he has absolutely no chance at all. But we're running for the order again. It is Darian with the race win, Casper in second place, Kilcree in P3 completing the podium, Yanel in P4 with Alpha Gully P5, Jakku in P6, Tiramisu in P7, Frank in P8 for the Sauber team. So we'll quickly do the math on the Constructors in just a moment's time. Even Kanai out of the championship hunt in P9, and Richard, what could have been for him without that contact at the end? He's down in P10, taking that final solitary point position. As it is Chris, the only finisher outside of the points now. Non-finishers were Fede, Belbel, Aguado, and Chris B in this race. What a outstanding race we just saw here in Brazil, Quinn. Incredible stuff.
That contact that Richard got on the back of Kilcree, who knows what could have happened at the end there. But yeah, it was a brilliant race. It had everything. It had the wet qualifying, the extreme drama all through the race, and then final 8 laps on a little sprint on the soft tyres, and yeah, definitely delivered. But the big turning point for that was on the final lap, with Darian and Casper both getting past Kilcree.
Yeah, and confirmation, the championship is still alive. It was an 11-point gain for AlphaTauri tonight, so they have a 16-point lead going into the final round, as it currently stands, of course, pending any steward investigations, of course. And with the maximum amount of points able to be gained is, of course, 28. It's definitely going to be intriguing as we're going to go to the final round. Both championships still up for grabs. And, of course, looking at the final round of the championship, it is, of course, going to be the Circuit of the Americas next week. We're heading to Texas. We're heading to America. We are going to be wrapping things up at the Circuit of the Americas. What a way to end the season here, Quinn.
It's going to be a very exciting race around the Circuit of the Americas, quite similar to Brazil with the elevation changes and a very, very long straight. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what sort of setup these guys go for, because of course you've got tight and twisty section through Sector 3, which of course favors the downforce, but of course you've got to take advantage of the massive straight. So wouldn't be surprised if most people go for a top speed orientated setup.
Well, we're going to have to wait and see. Of course, the season finale next week in Austin, Texas at the Circuit of the Americas. The championship is essentially all in Casper's hands. 14-point lead in the drivers. The constructors, the AlphaTauris, have a 16-point lead going into the final round over the Saubers. It's essentially, again, is in AlphaTauri's hands. The championships both will be decided next time out in Austin, Texas. But until then, guys, I have been Michael Edwards. He has been Danny Quinn. And we'll catch you next week for the season finale in America. Until then, guys, It's goodbye from the pair of us.
See ya.
Desperately trying to hang on. He's got the inside. Walker is through on the left hand side. Hooks the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Walker now to the last couple of corners now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the GOAT is back. Jarno Walker wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning Grand Prix.